How can a fun, exciting Tinder date turn into a horrible tragedy? Or perhaps the real question is, are dating platforms even safe anymore? Sadly, for a 21-year-old, what should have been a carefree night with her Tinder date in a new city ended in the worst way imaginable. Welcome to New Crime by Bad Things, where we take you deep into the most disturbing cases. Today, we explore the heartbreaking story of Grace Millane, a young woman whose adventurous spirit was tragically cut short. Grace was a young traveler from the United Kingdom who had just spent 6 weeks exploring South America before arriving in New Zealand. She was full of excitement and curiosity, eager to see what the world had to offer. But on December 1st, 2018, after meeting a man on Tinder, her journey took a dark turn. Grace disappeared, leaving friends and family in a panic. Just days later, her body was found, and the investigation that followed uncovered a shocking truth. This wasn't just a case of a date gone wrong. There were dark, sinister motives at play. The question is, who was the man behind this horrific crime, and what led to such a senseless act? Join us as we unravel the chilling details of this devastating case. Grace Emmy Rose Millane was born on December 2nd, 1996, in Wickford, Essex, England. She had a bright future ahead of her, recently graduating from the University of Lincoln with a degree in advertising and marketing. After finishing her studies, Grace decided to take a gap year and travel the world before settling into a career. Like many young adults, she had a thirst for adventure and wanted to explore different cultures and places. Her adventure began in South America, where she spent 6 weeks visiting different countries, meeting new people, and sharing her experiences with her family and friends back home. Grace was always sending updates, pictures, and stories about her travels. It was clear that she was loving every minute of it. On November 19th, 2018, Grace arrived in New Zealand, excited for the next part of her journey. She spent 11 days in Auckland, staying at a popular backpackers hostel called Base Backpackers on Queen Street. She was sharing a room with other travelers and was eager to keep exploring. But what Grace didn't know was that her time in New Zealand would end in the most tragic way possible. On December 1st, 2018, Grace made plans to meet up with someone she had connected with on Tinder. Like many people, she was excited but nervous about meeting someone new. The date was set to take place at Sky City, a well-known entertainment spot in Auckland with restaurants, bars, and a casino. Grace put on a black dress and white shoes, ready to enjoy her evening. The night seemed to be going well. She also reportedly messaged a friend back in the UK saying that her date was going smoothly. She mentioned that the man she was with, named Jesse Kempson, worked as an oil manager and lived in a hotel. After their time at Sky City, the two decided to move to another location, the Bluestone Room, which was at a bar nearby. Although everything seemed fine, at one point, Jesse did something strange. He picked up Grace's handbag and started looking through it while she stepped away from the table. While it definitely was an odd behavior, Grace didn't seem bothered, and the night continued. Around 9:30 p.m., Grace and Jesse left the Bluestone Room, arm in arm, walking down the street. This would be the last time Grace was seen alive. The next day, December 2nd, was Grace's 22nd birthday. Her family and friends were excited to wish her well, but when they reached out to her, they got no response. This was extremely unusual, as Grace had been in constant contact throughout her travels. Both of her phones went straight to voicemail, and none of her messages were being delivered. Her brother, Declan, was especially concerned. Grace had always sent updates and photos from her trip, and for her to suddenly go silent on her birthday was alarming. After days of trying to reach her, Grace's family reported her missing to the Auckland police on December 5th. The search for Grace had officially begun. When the police looked into Grace's disappearance, they checked with her hostel, Base Backpackers. They found that Grace had not returned to her room after her night out on December 1st. Most of her belongings were still there, untouched. Initially, the police thought she might have stayed with new friends and forgotten to check in. But things didn't add up. The next step was to trace Grace's last known movements. Thanks to CCTV footage around Auckland, police were able to follow her steps. It didn't take long to identify the man Grace had been with, Jesse Kempson. He was staying at the City Life Hotel in central Auckland and was the last person seen with her. This raised immediate suspicion, and Jesse quickly became a person of interest in the case. Jesse Kempson wasn't a stranger to trouble. Born in the Wellington region, his childhood was marked by instability. His parents separated when he was young, and he was raised by his father and grandfather after his mother moved overseas. Jesse had a history of legal problems, including a drunk driving conviction and arrests for disorderly behavior. He had also lived in Australia for a few years, working odd jobs and getting into trouble there as well. By the time he met Grace, his life was far from stable, and he had a reputation for being a troubled individual. On December 5th, the police brought Jesse in for questioning. At first, he seemed calm and cooperative, agreeing to talk. But something wasn't right. His story didn't match up with what the police were finding in their investigation. During his initial questioning, Jesse told the police that the date with Grace had ended on good terms. He claimed that they hugged, kissed on the cheek, and made plans to meet again the next day. He said they parted ways around 10 p.m., and that was the last he saw of her. But the police weren't convinced. They had yet to review all the CCTV footage from the City Life Hotel, where Jesse was staying, and what they found painted a much different picture. Surveillance footage showed that Grace never left the hotel. She and Jesse were seen entering the building together, but only Jesse was seen leaving the next day. As the investigation continued, things only got worse for Jesse. CCTV captured him going on about his day on December 2nd, Grace's birthday. He was seen buying a suitcase, cleaning supplies, and renting a car. Later, he went on another Tinder date with a different woman, during which he talked about burying bodies, something that deeply unsettled her. On the same day, Jesse rented a rug cleaner, telling the staff that he had spilled red wine in his hotel room. The next day, CCTV footage caught him loading 2 suitcases onto a trolley and taking them to the car he had rented. By now, the police had enough evidence to take Jesse into custody. And by December 7th, Grace's father, David Millane, had flown to Auckland, pleading for help in finding his daughter. The case was quickly turning into a homicide investigation, but the authorities had not yet named Jesse publicly, but confirmed that they had questioned him and considered him a person of interest. On December 8th, 2018, everything changed. As police pieced together the evidence, they searched Jesse Kempson's hotel room. And what they found was not just disturbing, it was extremely shocking. Despite his efforts to clean up, forensic experts discovered blood stains of Grace's blood all across the floor. This was a major breakthrough in the investigation. Now, the police had a better idea of where to look. They focused on an area near Waitakere Reservoir, which was a remote location off Scenic Drive. On that afternoon, around 4 p.m., Grace's body was finally found. She had been buried in a shallow grave, just 10 yards from the road. The discovery sent shockwaves across New Zealand and beyond. People were horrified. 2 days later, on December 10th, Jesse Kempson was officially charged with Grace's murder. Following his arrest, Jesse appeared in court. To protect the fairness of the trial, the court granted him interim name suppression, which is why, early on, his identity wasn't publicly revealed. Meanwhile, the details of Grace's death were slowly coming to light. A pathologist confirmed that Grace had been strangled, and bruises on her body suggested she had been held down during the attack. It would have taken between 4 to 5 minutes of pressure on her neck to end her life. As if this wasn't horrifying enough, Jesse's actions after the murder painted an even darker picture. He didn't panic, as he later claimed. Instead, he calmly used his phone to search for unsettling things like hottest fire and flesh-eating birds. Even more disturbing, he took intimate photos of Grace's body after she had died. He then spent the next few hours browsing pornography sites, showing just how cold and calculating his behavior was. Grace's funeral took place back in Essex, England, a little over a month after her body was found. Hundreds of people gathered at Brentwood Cathedral to say their goodbyes. Detective Inspector Scott Beard even flew to the UK to support Grace's family and to pay his respects. But during this entire time, Jesse maintained his innocence. 6 days after Grace's funeral, Jesse appeared in court again, pleading not guilty to the charge of murder. His trial finally began in November 2019 and lasted for 3 weeks. Throughout the trial, Jesse remained largely emotionless, occasionally glancing down at court papers or holding his head in his hands. Jesse's defense team argued that Grace's death was a tragic accident, a result of consensual rough sex that had gone terribly wrong. They claimed Jesse had panicked when he realized she was dead and tried to cover up the incident. But the prosecution presented overwhelming evidence to prove otherwise. They argued that Jesse's actions were deliberate and calculated, showing no remorse and doing everything in his power to hide the crime. The trial stirred up strong emotions worldwide. Many people were deeply upset by how Grace's death was portrayed during the trial, feeling that the blame was unfairly placed on her. Instead of accepting responsibility, Jesse tried to shift the narrative in his favor. Even his own family spoke out, calling him a pathetic fantasist who often lied about everything, even small, pointless details. The trial lasted 3 intense weeks, with a jury of 7 women and 5 men. After 5 hours of deliberation, they returned a guilty verdict on November 22, 2019. Some jury members were so moved by the case that they reportedly wept when the verdict was announced. Grace's parents, David and Jillian, welcomed the decision, though it was bittersweet. Sadly, David passed away from cancer the following year. In New Zealand, murder carries a life sentence, with at least 10 years before parole can be considered, though judges can extend this depending on the severity of the crime. Now, even though Jesse was ultimately convicted of Grace's murder, this was not the end of his legal troubles. In October 2020, another woman, an ex-partner of Jesse's, came forward to reveal her own horrifying experience. She told the court how Jesse had abused her, choking her, and threatening her with knives. He forced her into sex acts and drained her bank account, leaving her traumatized. Jesse was convicted of 8 charges related to these incidents and sentenced to an additional 7.5 years in prison. Then, in November 2020, another woman stepped forward. She had been raped by Jesse 8 months before Grace's murder. Jesse had threatened to kill her and her family if she didn't comply. Once again, the court convicted Jesse, adding another 3.5 years to his sentence. These sentences were to run alongside his life sentence for Grace's murder. Even in the courtroom, Jesse showed no remorse, angrily shouting that he had been wrongly convicted. In the face of unimaginable grief, Grace's mother and cousin found a way to turn their pain into something positive. They started a charity called Love Grace, which supports women affected by domestic violence. The charity collects handbags filled with essential items and distributes them to women in need. By 2023, they had given out over 15,000 bags, both in the UK and internationally. Their efforts did not go unnoticed. In 2024, Grace's mother and cousin were awarded Officer of the British Empire honors for their incredible work and dedication to helping others. Grace Millane's tragic death shocked the world, but her legacy continues to live on. Her story reminds us of the importance of fighting against violence toward women and ensuring justice for those who can no longer speak for themselves. What do you think about this case? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more cases. See you in the next video.